Welcome to another daily roundup of Russian Telegram chatter. Your like and subscribe to my channel would really be appreciated. Subscription is free and it only takes a moment of your time. I monitor and translate Russian Telegram chat channels as a general mood check so you don't have to. Remember, please do your own research and be wary of propaganda and disinformation, which occurs frequently in Russian chat, especially when there is bad news for Russians concerning the country's illegal and genocidal war in Ukraine. The images used in the video are for illustration purposes only. They do not necessarily represent the issues or translations. And finally, please note, the chat is unverified and I do not endorse the views expressed. Right, let's get on with it. On Telegram today, Russia conducts first barter exchange with China. The Ural Customs Administration reported that at the end of September it had concluded its first foreign trade barter contract with a company from China. Chinese household appliances and building materials were exchanged for Russian flax. Barter in itself is an absolutely stupid thing. You understand that the flax seller now has to look for who will buy Chinese household appliances and building materials from him, and for how much. And this is time, extra logistics, and labor costs. And the Chinese will squeeze out the flax seeds and then sell them as oil at 3 times the price. And the main thing, why would the Chinese go for this scheme? Has anyone thought about it? Reason 1. Banking operations with a country that has been declared a financial ban by the US and EU are dangerous from the point of view of secondary sanctions. None of the Chinese want them. Reason 2. A seller from Russia taking advantage of the opportunity can be squeezed out at a price. After all, if you don't buy from him, then no one else will, said financial analyst Vitaly Kalugin. Friendly investors flee Russian stocks after sanctions against Moscow exchange. Investors from friendly countries began actively selling Russian shares after the US imposed sanctions against the Moscow exchange. According to the results of the second quarter of this year, assets in the accounts of non-residents with Russian brokers decreased by 9.6%, or almost 189 billion rubles, according to data from the central bank. The situation was aggravated by American sanctions against the Moscow exchange, the National Clearing Center, and the National Settlement Depository. Investors began to leave the Russian market due to the risk of secondary sanctions, as well as because currency trading became unavailable, says Gleb Boyko, a lawyer at the law firm Nektarov, Savelyev and Partners. The scale of money laundering in Russia has reached 1.2% of GDP. In 2023, 2.09 trillion rubles of criminal proceeds were laundered in Russia. That is, legalized for open use, which is equivalent to 1.2% of GDP, RBC reports, citing the scientific article Assessing the Scale of Money Laundering in Russia. The largest part of this amount was provided by economic crimes. Within their framework, according to the authors of the article, 872 billion rubles of criminal proceeds were laundered. The scientists' estimate significantly exceeds the official data on the money laundering market. Thus, according to the Bank of Russia, in 2023, about 30.8 billion rubles were illegally transferred abroad, and 59.5 billion rubles were cashed out. Russian oil will become cheaper and the ruble will weaken. This is the forecast for the next 3 years given by the head of the Ministry of Economic Development, Reshetnikov. By the end of the second quarter of this year, the volume of non-resident assets in the accounts of Russian brokers fell by 9.6% to 1.77 trillion rubles, Kommersant writes. Analysts attribute this trend to the fall of the Russian stock market and sanctions against the Moscow exchange. The situation may worsen by the end of the year. The central bank will raise the key rate to 22% at once, breaking the historical record, analysts at Pavaya Management Company predict. This will happen due to a slight slowdown in inflation, a weakening ruble exchange rate, and an increase in the recycling fee. That's all for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I also leave comments open for feedback, which I really appreciate. You can view my original posts in much more detail on Twitter. Follow me at beefeater_fella. My research threads also include full references and sources to speed up your own research. Did you know that I also provide daily updates and deep dive research videos on a range of interesting subjects including economics, geopolitics, sanctions, sanction circumventions, fossil fuel updates, and much more. If you are able to support me with a coffee or subscription on Patreon, I do provide links in the description of the video. I really appreciate all the support I can get towards my research, equipment, and publication costs. Thank you. To those who have supported me on Patreon or buy me a coffee, you are simply awesome. Your regular support is really appreciated. Remember, folks, the YouTube edition of my Russian Telegram chat translations is released every night at midnight, UK time. Have a great day. I look forward to your next visit.